are some do not start players for week 1 of the fantasy football season. These are players that you need to avoid at all costs if you can. I make new videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, if you have any start and sit questions, ask it down in the comments below. I'll answer any questions you have. So with that being said, let's get into the video. The first player, Justin Herbert. He plays the Washington football team, who last year allowed the 4th fewest points to the quarterback position. They also got better this offseason with the additions of Kendall Fuller and William Jackson. William Jackson last year played for the Cincinnati Bengals, where he allowed a 52% reception rate, which was the 7th best in the NFL according to Pro Football Focus. I would not feel comfortable with Justin Herbert as my starting quarterback this week, and he's outside of my top 10. So first player, Justin Herbert. The second player, Tua Tagovailoa. And I like his season-long outlook, but week 1 against the New England Patriots, I don't like it. Last year, New England gave up the 6th fewest points to the quarterback position. He's going to be without Will Fuller week 1, who's serving the last game of his 6-game suspension. And this is going to be a low-scoring defensive affair. So I don't like Tua. I would avoid him in week 1. The third player, Miles Sanders. And he's been a player that I'm not very high on heading into the season. I just view this as more of a timeshare. He's not going to play on third downs. Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell won't be involved in this offense. And last year, Atlanta was actually pretty good against the run. They gave up these 6th fewest points to the running back position last year. They allowed the 2nd fewest rushing yards on average to the running backs with 70, and allowed a 3.8 yards per carry to the running back position last year. I just view Miles Sanders outside the top 20 heading into week 1, and I would avoid him if you're able to week 1. The fourth player, David Montgomery. And I like David Montgomery heading into the season as an RB2, but week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams, this is going to be a really tough matchup for him, and I view him as more of a flex play. Last year, the Los Angeles Rams gave up the 5th fewest points to the running back position, and I expect Damian Williams to be involved a little bit in the passing game week 1. So I just view him as an outside top 20 guy that's going to really need a touchdown to be relevant this week. So I would avoid him if you can in your fantasy football leagues. Next, I have a pair of running backs for Buffalo and Zach Moss and Devin Singletary that I hope you're not relying on in week 1. This is a tough matchup against Pittsburgh, and really I don't like them at all for season long because it's going to be a headache of a backfield figuring out which guy to play each week. But week 1, totally avoid them at all costs. They're not viable right now in fantasy football, and really I view them as it's going to take an injury from one of these guys for one of the guys to really be startable each week in fantasy football. But especially week 1 against Pittsburgh, who gave up the 3rd fewest points to the running back position last year. Don't play these guys. Absolutely don't play these guys. You have to have somebody else better on your bench. The sixth player, Allen Robinson. And Allen Robinson, I talked a little bit in my wide receiver rankings that you can find in this video above, that it would be smart for Matt Nagy to put him in the slot for a decent amount in this game to avoid Jalen Ramsey in coverage. He's able to play in the slot where last year he played nearly 30% of his snaps in the slot. He also had the 19th most targets in the slot last year in the NFL. So he can definitely play there. But Darnell Mooney has taken all but 1 snap in the slot in the preseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works week 1. So if he's playing on the outside, I really would want to avoid him. But I think that I'm hoping Matt Nagy moves him into the slot quite a bit. So I know you can't sit him, but a player to really temper your expectations for week 1 is Allen Robinson. The next player, Kenny Golladay. And Kenny Golladay gets a tough matchup week 1 against the Denver Broncos, who are going to be improved on the defensive side of the ball this upcoming season. They're going to get All-Pro Von Miller back this upcoming season from injury. They're also going to have Ronald Darby and Kyle Fuller, who graded good last year in coverage as their starting cornerbacks. You also have Bryce Callahan. So this is a really tough matchup, especially for a guy in Daniel Jones, who I'm not really excited about. I just view this offense as a low passing volume offense that's really going to struggle against a really good team week 1 in Denver. So he's really going to need a touchdown to salvage his day, and I would avoid him if you are able to in fantasy football for week 1. On the flip side of the ball, Courtland Sutton, that you should avoid in week 1. I'd imagine he's going to see shadow coverage from James Bradberry, who last year usually played on the bigger wide receivers. He played on guys like AJ Green, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans. So Courtland Sutton, out of him and Jerry Jeudy, is the bigger guy. So I'd imagine he's going to see shadow coverage from him. And that's going to leave Jerry Jeudy to have a better fantasy day, a guy that I would rather start over Courtland Sutton in week 1. So if you can, avoid Courtland Sutton. So for the tight end position, you're really playing any top 10 guy you have. Don't even think about it. Like TJ Hawkinson, absolutely you're playing him. Now for DFS though, this is a different discussion. And in redraft, if you're playing some of these committee guys, I would reconsider who you're playing. So for DFS wise, TJ Hawkinson is the first guy I would avoid. I wouldn't play him in DFS. Currently, he's playing San Francisco, who San Francisco last year gave up the fewest points to the tight end position. So in redraft, don't panic if he doesn't have a week 1, a really solid week 1. Temper your expectations for week 1. Also, I would avoid the tight end committees right now in fantasy football, especially for DFS. So Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith are 2 guys that I would avoid. Right now, they seem to be in this committee where I want to see how this shapes up. Does this team go a lot of 12 personnel with Mac Jones under center? How does this team look? And also, this is a tough week 1 matchup against the Miami Dolphins, who last year gave up the 6th fewest points to the tight end position. Also, Gerald Everett, Will Dissly, who seem to be like splitting snaps currently. I would avoid this situation. They play Indianapolis, who gave up the 4th fewest points to the tight end position. And then lastly, Juwan Johnson, Andrew Troutman. I would avoid both of these guys to see how this plays. Right now, you had Andrew Troutman being subbed out on passing down, and you had Juwan Johnson coming in. But regardless, this is a really tough matchup against Green Bay, who's giving up the 3rd fewest points to the tight end position as well. So I would avoid the committees. And of course, you're playing TJ Hawkinson in redraft, but for DFS, I would avoid him. So with that being said, if you enjoy this content, please make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a great day.